Alright, so I'm going to show you how I make crepes. There's multiple ways to do it. This is how I did it. I was born in France. I was spent the first part of my life there. And this is just the easy way that we did it. I'm sure there's other ways to do it. And they're all valid, I suppose. But this is a very simple way because this channel is all about simple stuff. So all you're going to need is, this is, by the way, this is enough for maybe one person, maybe two people if you stuff it enough with stuff. But this, I call this a one person. So it's going to be one egg, some butter, salt, just a pinch, regular all-purpose flour, and milk. I like to use whole milk. You can use, I suppose, whichever one you want. I've actually done it also with powdered milk. I suggest using something of a whole milk powdered form. The skim one, maybe. I don't really like skim powdered milk. I prefer this this whole milk, but I suppose you can do whatever you want. I have done it with this. It tastes just fine, but I like fresh milk just because of the ease of use. I don't have to measure out the powder. So let's get started. Okay, so the ratio here is simple. It's going to be a 1-to-1 on the flour and the milk. It'll end up being a slightly more than 1-to-1, but I say that because it depends on the flour and all that stuff. You're going to add a little bit more to get the consistency the way you want it. And then you're going to have 2 eggs for every cup of flour. So I'm only going to do a half, so it's going to be 1 egg. So I have in here, I put half a cup of milk, and then this is a half cup of flour, pinch of salt, and then just 1 egg. And then let me throw that in the blender, and I'll show you what we got. Okay, so this is what we got. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know why I used this giant one. Could have used a smaller one. But what you want is you want a consistency that easily moves around, because it's going to be moving around on this pan here. So start with the half, or start with the 1-to-1 ratio. And just kind of go by feel. By the way, I just blended it for 10 seconds, then stopped, and then 10 more seconds. And it came out just fine with no lumps. Some recipes say you have to put this in the fridge for, hours. I've done both, putting it in the fridge and not, and I found that there's not really any major difference. I guess maybe if you ask a food scientist, it'll be a little bit better, but I find that it's just fine. It's not going to be much different if you don't do it. So I'm just adding a little bit of milk. That's about right. I don't know, maybe a few more tablespoons. Can't really show you in this giant cup, but you'll see when I pour it. I have the pan heating up. So for me, it's on 6.5. Mine goes from low, which is 1, to high, which is 9. So 6.5 out of 9 is the heat level that I'm using. This is not a special pan. It is non-stick. I have done it on steel pans that tend to stick a little more. It sticks slightly, if you do it right, it won't stick much. I prefer non-stick for these, even though you can really do it on pretty much any pan. This isn't a particularly good pan by any means. It's just what I have. It was actually given to me, so I don't have any other non-stick pans. I use mostly cast iron myself, but for this, it does help to have something that's non-stick. So I'm going to move the batter out of the way, and as that's heating up, some people put melted butter into the batter. It does help, I think, if you do that. If you want to do that, that's fine. Just put maybe a tablespoon or 2 into the batter. But I just butter the pan itself, and I find that there isn't a whole lot of difference, especially on a non-stick pan. If you wanted to do both, I guess you could. But I find that a little bit of butter on a non-stick pan does the job. So let me let this pan heat up for just a minute, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so the pan has to be hot. It takes about a minute on the first side and about 30 seconds on the second side. So it needs to be nice and hot. Don't be scared. I think a lot of people put it too low, and then it sticks. It's the heat is one of the things that helps it not stick. So if it's too low on the heat, then you're gonna get more sticking. And what you do is just simple. You just take, I just take my stick of butter, and I just put a little dab. Then I put the butter in the freezer so it doesn't melt all over the place. And then the reason you wanted the batter, kind of the right consistency, is you're going to, okay, I do a half radius, which means if you take the diameter of the pan in the middle, half of that is going to be the radius. That's the amount of batter that I put. So let me show you what I mean. So about there, that's about a half. Okay, now the first one is always a throwaway. Okay, you got to kind of season the pan with the butter and all that. So the first one is going to be, pretty much always a throwaway. Not a throwaway as in not usable, but it's just not going to be pretty. It's not going to be as good. So give it, again, about a minute. You'll see it start to curl up at the edges. Now, on a pan that's shaped correctly, like a traditional crepe pan, it's more shallow and it's easier to maneuver things around. For the flip, normally you just take it and you just flip it, right? For this, I have to kind of use this little tool here just to help me separate it first before I get flippy. But one of the things about growing up in France is everybody knew how to make crepes. I mean, everybody. When I was a child, I'm talking 6 years old, I knew how to make crepes, and I made them by myself, and I could, flip, and you'd get fancy and start doing the double, triple flips, crepe acrobatics. So the first one, again, is going to be a little bit on the sticky side. Not much, but what you're going for is about like that, right? So let me just show you that one, right about that. That's actually a good one. That might be the first one, but it's perfectly usable. Sometimes they tear on the first one or whatever until the pores of the metal really absorb some of that butter, and that's what helps it be non-stick. So second side, it's going to be a lot smoother, and it's going to go really quickly. So this one you can a lot more easily flip, and this crepe is not cooperating. But that's pretty much done. Now you can see that's the flip. That's the normal flip. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a couple more seconds, and then I'm just moving it onto a plate here. You can do it either side up. I usually do other things with them, so I do it not pretty side up. That way when you get ready to use them, you don't have to flip them back over. So same thing, give it a couple seconds just to heat up. I don't have to butter it every time. I butter about every other time. Nice and hot. Okay, so again, so if that's the radius, move it to the middle, right? So whatever, that's the radius, move it to the middle, and start turning immediately. And you can make them however big or small you want. I'll do a little bit more. I'll make a smaller one. Now again, on a traditional crepe pan, it's a lot easier to get that nice perfect round, but I mean, this first one wasn't, that was good. So second one I didn't turn quite as good, but this one will go a little quicker. I can already see it here. It's already peeling on the edge. Again, I just give it a little bit of help here, and it goes quickly, and Bob's your uncle. Again, you can see it's more even. It spreads out more evenly. The first one kind of clumped right away when it hit the pan. So it's going to be a lot smoother, a lot easier. Give it a few seconds. Check it a little more. And the great thing about crepes is you can make them in advance. You can make as many as you want, and you can honestly just freeze them. And they're good for kind of everything. They're a multi-tool, right? The Swiss Army tool of baked or bread goods, because you can make savory dishes with them. You can make sweet dishes with them. You can do a whole meal really just with crepes. So now I'm going to grab the butter. Let it heat up just a second. Give it just a little. It doesn't take much. From now, it's just kind of maintaining the butter on there. So let me see if I can show you a better angle here. So. Good. Okay. And as you get into a rhythm, it gets a little bit easier after a while. You just remember not to let it go too long because the pan is hot. It's already curling on the edges, the very edges here. I can see that. And it really doesn't take a long time at all. So I'm going to use these in future recipes. Right now I just wanted to show you. So the flip, you're not going up, you're going out, and the curve is what's going to give it the flip. So be careful, don't do it over the stove your first time, because you will drop it on the burner and it will stick and burn and you have a smoky mess. So practice it kind of off to the side. Practice it over the sink if you want. But yeah, all you do is you give it a little flip forward, and it shoots up the side, and that's what gives it the flip. So you don't have to throw it up and try to flip it yourself. You just give it a little push. All right, that's probably good. Also, you don't have to cook it to 100% because it's still hot. It's going to keep cooking after you take it off the stove, and you're making a small pile, and they're keeping in the heat a little bit. So let it finish cooking kind of on its own. Also, if you're going to reuse it to make things and recook it with things inside, you maybe want to make it slightly undercooked because it's going to continue cooking once you take it the second time. So again, about half. Just give it a little shake here. You got a little bit of time to fill in spots that didn't work out very well. Whatever. Not gonna worry about it. This pan seems to be a little bit hotter this time. Doesn't have to be completely perfect. Find that if you, just like anything else, the more you do it and the more often you do it, the better you'll be. I find that if I get into a kick for crepes and I make it more than once in a week, then I definitely get better at it. It's kind of like riding a bike. You never forget, but at the same time, the little nuances are easier to master if you're doing it regularly. Either way, it's still a fine crepe. This one's just not as pretty as the others, but it's nice and golden brown. The color's good. It'll work. Let's see. Yep, it's good. I'm happy with that. So you can see that you can get quite a bit even with this small batch. I mean, most crepe recipes are, they're huge, and you're sitting there for an hour making crepe after crepe, and really you don't need that many for, you know, one meal or so. Right now I have what, I think 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I'll get what, six good ones, and then maybe a little small one out of that. So 6 crepes is it's easy to eat 6 crepes, especially if you have, you know, something good on there. So but for 2 people, you know, if you make a savory dish, 6 is fine. It's 3 each plus sides or whatever. If you make a dessert, maybe it's a little bit easier to eat more of them. This one is not budging. All right, that's fine. Cheat. Those came up on the sides a little bit, so it wasn't completely flat, which is why it was a little bit harder. So again, on the crepe pan there, it's more of a flat surface. This starts bowling up a little more on the sides. A crepe pan is more flat with more immediate sides, so it's easier to get a flat crepe that doesn't bowl like this one. See, I made this one a little too big, so the sides are kind of bowling in. Still works, still fine, still edible. Let's see. Yep, that's good. Happy with that. And I'm going to put a little bit more butter for this one. Doesn't take too much to do the job. I'll let it heat up a second. All right. I might be able to get 7, maybe 7. That might be for 7. I'm not sure how big the last one will be. It might be a bit of a runt, but that's okay. Usually the first one's a throwaway, so you get about 6. But I got lucky on this one, and I was able to get all of them to be, even the first one to be good. So I'll probably get 7 out of this. Or the last one may be a little thicker or smaller. I'm not sure. I'll just go ahead and use up the rest of the batter. It's not much. It's just a couple tablespoons. So if you've ever seen those people that sell crepes and you think, man, that's complicated, it's really not at all. Don't burn yourself, by the way. It's really not complicated. This is staple food. This is it's like Mexican tortillas or naan bread or something. It's just people do it in very, very little equipment. French food is not about complication, not at the local level anyways. The family level, it's not complicated. It's more of a knowing the techniques. Now, if you want to talk about haute cuisine, the high class fancy cooking, yeah, those guys are all about more complicated ingredients and stuff. But for the average family that's just cooking at home, it's really not. Let's see what we get here on this last one. Oh, this looks good. Might get one good one. Yeah, I think we'll get one good one. Okay, so we'll have 7 good ones. Nice. So yeah, at the family level, it's really simple, fresh cooking. It's not about super complicated. It's just about quality and taking the time to do it, and having some respect for the ingredients, as Chef Ramsay would say. Put some care into what you put into your body, because you're feeding yourself, you're feeding your family. You should care, right? And you should show that you care. So that's the trick to French cooking on the normal person level. I can't tell you how to make Michelin level food. I have no idea. But as far as what the average normal French person eats, stuff like this. Although I've heard, because I still have family there, that they've really kind of lost a lot of that people just don't really cook. And it used to be everybody cooked, right? It wasn't just, you know, the women that cooked. I mean, in France, everybody knew how to cook. I mean, all the guys I knew, they knew how to cook. It wasn't a role. It was, people want to eat. They want to eat good, so they know how to make it. So here we go. Turn that off. Yep. So here's the crepes, and you can kind of see if I put the pre-side forward. That's what we got. 7 good ones out of half a cup of flour, just over half a cup of milk, 1 egg, and a pinch of salt. And so I'm going to put these aside, and I'm going to make some dishes with them for future videos, but this first one is just the bare bones how to make the crepe itself. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you later on with more videos.